you wondering how long your resume should be, especially in this crazy landscape of the job search right now? This is a confusing question, and it's one I get asked a lot. There isn't really a complete answer to it, but what I can tell you is a couple of things. One is that the old fashioned advice about keeping it to just a single page is old fashioned. It's a little bit outdated, although, of course, that depends on the amount of relevant experience you have. If you're seeking a new role in an organization or company or industry with which you have no history, nothing you've done significantly overlaps with it, feels like a whole fresh start, then you're probably going to have more of a one pager just because you don't have as much to say about the relevant experience you do have. However, for a lot of us, what happens is when we change things up a bit, we realize, looking back over what we've done, that a lot of the stuff that we have in our backgrounds really does relate to the new thing that we are seeking. In which case, you can absolutely go for 2 pages. This is a bit of a change. I think LinkedIn probably had something to do with it because obviously your history on your LinkedIn profile isn't limited to just a single page. Now, the caveat here, of course, is that ideally, in your work history, you only want to go back somewhere roughly in the neighborhood of 10 or 15 years because we don't want employers to be making assumptions about you based on the age they think you are. Age discrimination is a real thing. It happens, and this is a nice way to get around it. So if you have older experience that you really want to mention on there, we're just going to phrase it either like 5 years of experience in or 10 plus years of experience in, that kind of thing. And you can put that instead of your dates. I like the dates on the right-hand margin of the document. Or you can simply list the experience you have, what you did, all of your accomplishments, without listing any date information at all. So that's kind of how you get around that little sticky wicket there. However, I don't generally recommend that your resume be more than 2 pages long. And this is primarily because once your resume gets past the applicant tracking system, which is the robot that's there to pull out keywords, make sure that you actually appear to be qualified for the posted job, the first person who looks at the resume is probably going to spend somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 seconds. Specifically, how long that is going to depend, it's based on different studies. But the point is, it's not very long. And so you want to make your points very, very quickly. And chances are pretty good that if you have a third page to your resume, nobody is going to see it. So it's a little bit of kind of wasted effort on your part. So let's see if we can get it down to 2 pages in length. This does, of course, mean cutting out some things that you determine to be less relevant to the position. Don't worry, we're not losing that information entirely. It is still, for instance, going to live in your LinkedIn profile, and it's still stuff that you have done. So I recommend a couple of things in this process. One of them is keeping a massive document that is all the work you have ever done. Now, I call this my CV. I talked the other week about the difference between resumes and CVs. A CV is just a curriculum vitae, or else also called a vitae or a vita. This is used in academic circles frequently. People in medicine will often have CVs. So there are some specific professions where this is a little bit more typical. So I just have a document that I call my CV because those are longer documents in general. And I have all of my work history on it. And this is really useful if you're trying to remember some details of what you have done in the past. So you can have a giant document like that that goes as far back in your work history as you can remember. And then you can pull information from it as it meets the needs of the current thing that you are applying for. It feels a little bit unwieldy at first, but this is really going to streamline your process as you begin applying for things, especially if they are a little bit different from what you have done in the past. So, essentially, ideal length for your resume outside of those very specific circles where CVs are more standard is really kind of 1 or 2 pages, depending. Now, if you're going on to the second page, I always say you might as well fill it up. give a little bit more detail, add a little bit more information. Because although the first person who looks at your documents is really only going to spend that 10-ish seconds, the second or third person who looks at the document might be seeking a little bit more. So you can go ahead and put that detail into page 2. But if you go on to page 3, that first person who looks at it might just decide, I'm not willing to read this. I'm not finding the information I need here on page 1, and chuck you into the trash anyway. So make your point as quickly as you can. Really front load that first page with the stuff that relates to the job. And you're really looking to do a 1, 2, 3 kind of across the board measure of how you qualify for the job. And then you can get into a little bit more detail. You can add some more compelling content, the stuff that you want the hiring manager really to see ultimately a bit further down on the document. So I hope that's helpful. Let me know if you have any questions, and I will see you again soon.